Well, good morning, Ray. Today's the day. We've got a window of opportunity. Slotting stuff in. So today's the day for 6309. That's a nice watch. Resist text is a little faded, but it's just so nice. I love seeing the loom pips when they're in this condition. I love watches in this shape. Just, all the case lines are there and sharp. And it's got some wear, it's got some brushing and stuff like that, but that just makes it wearable. But like, you can still see the nice high polish here and the circular brushing. This is a nice watch. That's nice. December 79. December 1979. I have a December 79. It's a date that I see a lot. Look at that movement. Bright as a penny. Not good. There we go. Bright as a penny. That's relatively tight. I'll have to see what it actually looks like when I get it open. Gosh, this one didn't have a lot of miles on it. Sure didn't. That's a nice watch. Okay, well, nothing to it but to do it. Let's jump. So here's the first stop. I always like to see this. This black stuff is the old S2 mainspring lubricant working its way out old and dry. But you can actually see the first warning sign of that lower mainspring arbor. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can get a handle on it. Right there. Right there. See that right there? A little scratch of brass. That's the ratchet wheel tipping over and starting to grind into the top of the train bridge. So we're going to have to do that one. I mean, that, if nothing else, that tells us the truth. I mean, you can see how that S2 lubricant just works its way out over time. I'm not quite sure why Seiko uses it, but they do, and I have it, so I use it, but it's just kind of funky. Relatively clean, I'd say. Bushings look okay so far. Nothing deadly yet, except, of course, for that mainspring arm report, but we'll get to that. Okay. There's your dial and hands. This is actually, the video makes it look like these, the resist text is a little green, but it's actually still a darker brick red, which is nice. It's pretty, if it's only a little bit faded, and it looks much nicer in person. Gosh, it's beautiful. By this point, by the late 70s, Seiko wasn't using whatever loom formulation they were using on the dial, and it didn't come out of the factory with that butter tan cream anymore. Everything is just white. That's nice and tall, though. Well applied. Beautiful hand surfaces. Oh, it's nice. That's nice. You just don't see them like this too much anymore. Less and less and less often I see them like this. That's a good place to be. Good place to be. Let's move forward. Here's something nice to see. Just talking about, there's certain places I look to see how worn or dirty a watch is. And this is the inside of the crown. I just pulled the split stem. And you can see you've still got your original stem rest washer, which is great. A lot of times when these get serviced, that gets lost. People have a hard time reassembling these things, and the spring will boop, and this stem rest washer flies away. But look, this is your stem spring here, and it was inside the crown. And just look at how clean it is. That nice? Look at the shine. Normally, a lot of times I'll pull these out, they'll be covered in just black garbage or completely stuffed with rust if the seal has failed. Look at that. Just pretty. Pretty. And there's that exquisitely important stem rest washer. That keeps the split stem ends nice and in place where they ought to be. That's a critical component. You can get away without it, but boy, I sure don't like to. Here's the back of your dial. Your watch case back is December 79, and as is real typical, the dial is 1 month before, November 79. That's real standard. In fact, I would when I see something out of this, maybe sometimes I'll see it before, sometimes I'll see it before, but if I see it afterwards, that's a real question mark. So just based on observation, it seems that they made this stuff in batches to coincide how they did their production. They produced the dials first, then the case backs, and they did all that kind of stuff. They weren't producing case backs and then making the dials in terms of dates, but there it is, November 79. Here's there's the lower mainspring arbor port. It's worn, but you can see, again, it's going to be pushed out on this side, and you can see that it's pushed out pretty well that side. You can also see, this is the other thing that we're going to see. This is the underside of the upper mainspring arbor bushing, and you can see that the mainspring barrel was pushing upwards. Up is down here, and you can see that it's grinding through this plating into the brass, and so that I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on to bring that back. Your bushings, lower bushings, look okay, but I haven't really put them under magnification yet to know. But anyway, you can see there that is. See, it's ovaled out on that side, and that's what happens. Okay, onward and upward. Okay, so here's the main plate out of the cleaner. You can see that lower mainspring arbor jewel there in place, as it ought to be. Everything else is nice and clean, no problems. Your crown, I love seeing stuff like this because it had so little wear and was so like nice inside. It's like if you get the light in just right, you can see that it's like a mirror finish all the way inside. It's a nice little thing to see for a watch that didn't live that active a life, but we got it right here. So that's all good. All right, moving forward. This is always a fun moment when we go and we drop on the balance. Everything's rebuilt. The calendar's not yet rebuilt, but the train part is. And the reason I do that is to make sure that we can that we isolate any potential issues. I want to see what the issue is when I'm if there's any kind of amplitude issue. I don't want to have to worry about if it's the train. Darn it! I don't have to worry if it's the train or anything else. I want to be able to isolate that part. Oh, and there she goes, chugging away. Let's drop that screw in there. Oh, would you stop it? Stop fighting me. We seat this down pretty gingerly. Want to make sure it's where it needs to be. And we see, and she's running. Hey, amplitude looks great. You sort of get a feel for it after a while. You can sort of look at it and see if it's spinning up where it ought to be, if it's got a good feel to it. So I'm not going to put this thing on the time grapher right now. I'm just letting it run in. But so far, that looks pretty nice. Has this really, I don't know, it's hard to explain. You see this, it's got this really nice high fast blur to the way that the wheel looks, and you can really see that the mainspring, the hairspring is really opening and closing, and you just get a feel for it. So there it is. So now I'm going to let that run, and I'm going to assemble on. I'll check the numbers here in just a second, just see if everything's funky and see if I can just drop it down. Hang on just one sec. So it's all assembled now with the dial on, not the hands or anything, but it's still running in. We're cruising along. Still settling, but good numbers so far, and nice and accurate. We are getting there. Okay, cool. Now, so the next thing to do is to look at your case and stuff. You got all your case material things going on. We get to inspect all that now that it's all nice and clean. Not any real surprises here, I'm sure. No sealing surfaces. See the, well, let's look at that right quick. What is that? Ah, it's just a flake. It's a nothing. Yeah, it's all good. Your crown threads are nice. Yeah, crown threads are nice and clean and sharp. You can see that. Sealing surfaces, they all look good. One thing to be aware of, I mean, it's not a problem until it's a problem, but that's your click ball right there, okay? For your rotating ring. And this one, you can see how they're put into the case and then the case is crimped around them to hold them down. This one is not that deeply crimped, and these have a habit of coming out. It's not a big deal, and even if it did, you wouldn't even notice until you actually took the rotating ring off. Just something to be aware of. There's that. That's all good. Let me look at your case back. Yeah, you got a little bit of surface hazing, but nothing major. And a little bit of staining there, right there. I'll look a little more closely at that, but I think that's just surface staining. It's definitely not pitting. Yeah, okay, well that I'm not too worried about. Here's your beautiful rotating ring. It's lovely pip. I went and I always do this with these, is I went and clear coated over the back of your pip here because that helps. It's invisible from the front and it protects your original loom. That's something I always do for everybody. That's just one of those things I usually don't even tell people about it. I just do it and go from there. Well, cool. Alrighty, onward and upward. Well, good morning. Here we are. I use the case as a test bed. It's basically the best movement holder there possibly ever could be. So I tend to use the case a lot to sort of hold the movement and protect everything. So I'm gonna look at the numbers and check things out and everything, but I thought it'd be fun, just really quick, to look at the beauty of one of these dials when it's undamaged and unfaded. You can see the pattern of the loom. You can see how it looks. You can see the bright stamping, the bright metallic silver, the dial. See the nice deep date window there? That's nice. Like I said, fewer and fewer we see these now. Fewer and fewer we see these. But this one's still here. Okay, let's push ahead. Well, it's been running an overnight, and that's what we're seeing. So that's about a week. I'd say, I don't know, maybe 20 hours, 22 hours, something like that. Ignore the messy signal. There's a couple of things. I've got the blowers on, and also it's in its case, and that makes it a little harder to listen to. So far, so good. So far, so good. There it is. Like I've said it so many times, working on this watch, you just don't see these in this kind of condition so much anymore. You really don't. Boy, it's just something about a clean watch. It just makes it so nice. So nice to touch and work with and everything else like that. There's just not a lot really to talk about or complain about or anything else like that. It's nice. Back that up a little bit. Put that over here. Your old stuff is in here. All that junk. You're welcome to keep or not. The crystal, your original crystal had some marks on it, but not many. But, so that's something definitely you want to hang on to. I don't know. It's all good. I think the only thing going on that I should mention is you've got a bit of a gap. See the gap between the rotating ring and the case? See how I can squish that down a little bit? That's a function of the interlocking between the rotating ring and the case. They have these lips that interlock, and they're real. They don't overlap each other very much, and yours are a little worn for some reason. It's probably actually more of a manufacturing thing. So it comes up a little bit, but it's just the way that it is. That's a really nice watch. Just don't see them like this too much anymore. That's a nice watch. Cool. All right, well, I'm looking forward to getting this back to you, and I certainly hope that you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed working on it. Okay, thank you much.